Everyone has nightmares. But for actors, they can take a very different form because their worst nightmares happen when they are wide awake.
And then I slid off the edge of the platform and ended in the lap of one of the patrons in the front row.
He takes the chicken costume head off. It makes his toupee stand straight up on his head.
And I feel something crawl into my ear canal and go inside.
Jesus went up into the rafters where he arrived with a crash.
What I've been saying in Vietnamese translates to my hurts when I don't look at you.
I'm Luann Moldovan, host of The Actor's Nightmare. Join us each week for real horror stories from the stage, told by the actors who actually lived through them. Sometimes terrifying, sometimes hard to believe, often very funny. And every actor who has been around long enough has at least one nightmare story from the stage that made them think, it's time to get a real job. Hi, I'm Luann Moldovan, and welcome to The Actor's Nightmare. We have a great story today, but before we get into it, I want to thank our sponsors who have been so supportive of the show. First, a big shout out to Artists Repertory Theater, Portland's premier regional theater company, producing intimate, provocative shows that provide a home for a diverse community of artists where they can thrive and take risks. Check out their 2019-2020 season at www.artistrep.org. Also, thanks so much to our patrons, Bob Conklin, and to Len and Susan Magazine and their company Real Estats, providing statistical overviews for residential real estate in Oregon and Washington. Check them out at www.realestats.net. And of course, we are so grateful for the studio at North Rim, where we record our podcast. If you want to do a show, check them out at studioatnorthrim.com. All right, so today we have in the studio dear, lovely Kristen Martha Brown to today's podcast.
Hi.
Hi, I'm so glad you're here.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, and Kristen, you've been a wonderful actress for actually for a while, young as you are. But did you start in? I don't know why I link you with poetry and literature, and was that just a passion of yours?
I think there's that I love that. I love poetry and I love speaking poetry and reading it aloud, as I think it's always there was a moment in my life when it kind of saved me when it
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You got into this very interesting program where you were performing internationally.
The Vietnamese American Theater Exchange.
Okay.
And it was between the National Theater of Vietnam and Artists Repertory Theater here.
Got it.
And we did a Vietnamese American co-production of Midsummer Night's Dream with two directors.
Oh,
An
wow.
American director and a Vietnamese director over in Vietnam.
Okay.
3 or 4 American actors and then lots of Vietnamese actors that were part of Nha Hat Keek, the National Theater of Vietnam, which is a state-run theater, a communist state-run theater. Very interesting.
So did you start there in Vietnam and then come to Portland to perform here?
Yes, we did. We did the production there. We mounted the production. We did it in 3 different cities.
Who were you playing?
Helena.
Okay. You were doing this production in English and Vietnamese?
English and Vietnamese, and with super titles like they do in opera.
Oh,
So
okay.
the Vietnamese would speak Vietnamese most of the time. Americans would speak English most of the time.
Okay.
And then every once in a while we'd interject a little line in the other language. Yeah, and then there were super titles over the stage in whichever language wasn't being spoken.
When did this particular nightmare occur? So set this up for us.
So we were there about 3 months, and like I said, we had these little times in each throughout the script where we would speak the opposite language.
Right.
And Vietnamese, I mean, many of those Asian languages are very difficult for us Westerners because they're tonal. They're tonal, and the same basically the same spelling and the same basic sound of the word, basic sound of a word, has the word will have a different meaning depending on the inflection that you give the word.
Wow. Can you give an example?
Not off the top
Yeah,
of
it's
my
been a
head
while.
anymore, 'cause
That's
it's
okay.
been like 20 years.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, not off the top of my head.
It's all right.
No, that's all right. I'm sorry. But I would say that like a word that's very common that we use a lot here is that most people here would pronounce pho, right? The
Right.
soup, pho.
Yes.
It's actually pho, right? Pho is how, that's the difference in the tone, the
Got it.
tonal language. If
Okay.
you said pho, they would be like,
Right,
I-
right.
and you would think that people would kind of get that you're trying to say something, one thing, but you're just using a different tone, and that there would be some inference there. But I can't tell you how many times I was like, how did you not know what I was saying?
Yeah.
How
Doesn't
could you
work
not
that
just
way.
understand? Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
There's just so many things. So, and I was Helena.
Okay.
And one of, let's see, how should I set this up? So it was actually during this press junket that one of the, someone from the press asked, can you give an example of like something that is lost in translation? And there was this line that I gave to Demetrius. The line is, I am sick when I look not on you. That's the Shakespeare line, right?
I am sick.
I am sick when I look not on you. And every time I would say this is one of my lines that I said in Vietnamese, there would be tittering in the audience. And during rehearsal, whenever I said it, there would be tittering in,
And what did
amongst
you
the
think of
the
that?
Vietnamese cast. I just thought, I mean, they teased me a lot.
Okay.
They would often like say, oh, say this, like they'd tell me what to say, and then I'd say it, and then they'd laugh. So
Okay.
they were, I knew that like in those times they were getting me to say something filthy and thinking it was hilarious. But I mean, like, I get it.
Being a good sport.
I get it. Yeah, of course, sure. I get it. We always thought that, when any of our Vietnamese castmates were, making very good effort to use our language, there's a certain charm to it.
Sure.
It's endearing, and we get to know these people, and it's endearing and loving, and we laugh partially because they're just so adorable, right? And trying, and we know that feeling of trying. So, but every time I said that, it would titter through the audience. I am sick when I look not on you. So, I mean, I said it better than that, okay?
Of course.
But, and so they ask, and, we had this translator, whom is his name, and he is just a lovely, lovely person. From a small village in Vietnam, very earnest, super hardworking, very shy, very kind of old-fashioned then, you would think, very innocent, very innocent and sweet, and a little bit shy, and our main translator, and so they ask him what was funny, and he says, well, sometimes what they say in Vietnamese and how they say it has a different meaning in the tone, and it's very funny. Like when Helena says something, but he's too shy
Yes.
to like really put it out there and say what it is.
Okay.
And I'm like, what is happening? So I eventually I get to the bottom of it, and here's what's been happening. When I say, I am sick when I look not on you, that's what I'm saying in my head, in the Vietnamese. The tones that I am using say, my cunt hurts when I don't look at you.
Oh my God!
That's what I've been
And this
saying.
is what they've been tittering and thinking you're so.
No one's telling me.
Oh God!
because it's hilarious. And also, this is 20 years ago, and there's we've part of the challenge of this project has been how Helena and I interact with the Demetrius and the actor who plays Demetrius, because there's a hierarchy, that I as an American don't understand. And then when I do understand it, I'm not willing to play by it. That has to do with his position in the National Theater, and also his being male and my being female. And so they're already, and I've already been, I was never talked to, but it's obvious that they think I'm already a little bit extra, right? I'm a little bit over the top. I'm a little bit forceful. I have a lot of opinions. And so then I've just kind of been just riding that.
Weren't gonna tell you.
Riding that all the way.
Weren't gonna tell you.
I mean, a woman would never say anything like that in public.
What was
or on stage.
Of course. So what was Demetrius' his response? Demetrius, the actor, as you said that on stage.
I mean, I think I remember him at some point, you know, during rehearsal, just like throwing his head back and laughing.
Oh God.
Now that I'm thinking of it, but no one ever, I don't know that I really ever had a blunt conversation with anyone after I figured it out. And I thought it was quite funny.
But
Once I
during it,
figured out it was
nobody
very
told,
funny.
nobody let you know.
No. No.
Okay.
Nope, nobody said anything.
And these audiences who would, they just thought that silly American.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's actually quite lovely, you know, if I can just get a little personal here.
Yeah.
But the Vietnamese slang for lady parts is butterfly.
Oh.
That's kind of lovely, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But that's not what you said.
But no, I don't remember. It may have been. I don't remember. But I do remember learning that and liking it.
Kristen, thank you for sharing something that was a mortifying moment.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for tuning in to The Actor's Nightmare. If you have a story you'd like to share and want to be on the show, it's really easy. Just record it into your phone and send it in an email to actorsnightmarepodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing your stories, and we're always on the lookout for new ones. So please, don't be shy. That's actorsnightmarepodcast@gmail.com. We'll be putting up a new podcast each week, so be sure to subscribe and support the show by liking us on Facebook. And again, I want to thank our sponsors, Artist Repertory Theater, Portland's premier regional theater company, producing intimate, provocative shows that provide a home for a diverse community of artists where they can thrive and take risks. And to Bob Conklin, an ardent sponsor of all things theatrical here in Portland. And finally, to Real Estats, providing statistical overviews for residential real estate in Oregon and Washington. This is Luann Moldovan. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time on The Actor's Nightmare.